Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Jump City Simulator here. We're back with another episode of Launch to the Absolute Moon and Back, and we'll see where that gets you. Oh, Spency boy, sipping on way too much tea. I mean, way too much. Oh, anyways, RF is officially back when it comes to the track designs. Finally, finally they're starting to get back in a rhythm here. Of course, there's a lot of other issues with RF, but just, narrowing it down to the track design itself, they are finally starting to get somewhere again right here. So, this first big rhythm section, I'm pretty for damn sure, has to be the biggest, most skill gap, difficult rhythm section that has ever been on any RF Supercross track ever. Like this rhythm right here, quadding up over that table, it might even be a 5, I don't know. And you can jump all the way to that tabletop and jump over. I did that the next lap here, but that rhythm right there is insane, dude. For the big dog tea sipping, stewable, jumping, I mean, that's the only kind of people can really hit that kind of a jump rhythm, because the jump face is so peaked. That first jump in is so peaked right there that if you're not ready for that impact and how much speed you have to go to get over that all the way over that first tabletop, if you're not ready for that kickered out impact of that first jump right there, it's going to basically instantly just shoot you in a backflip off of the track. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we are finally getting somewhere with the jump skill gap. I mean, that's saying a lot for RF to get to a point where I feel like they're making rhythm sections that are bigger and badder than we've ever had before in any RF Supercross season ever. Certainly, this is the biggest shit we've had since 2017, but shit, I think it's even bigger than that. And it's not like it's, sometimes you get those rhythm section jumps where the certain quad is almost impossible to hit, but you can still hit it one in every 15 or 20 laps. That's not really the kind of difficulty I'm talking about to this first rhythm right here. This is just more of it's very hittable. It's pretty doable, but oh buddies, you better be holding on to them damn handlebars. You know what I'm saying? You better be leaning on that bike properly when you first come off that jump face, or it's gonna screw you. It's gonna do like this right here. You see what I'm saying? Perfect example, Spency boy. Perfect. That's exactly what it'll do to you if you're not prepared. That's what I was telling you, boys. When you peek out those jumps just a little bit more, you get the jump height just a little bit more, and it'll start making shit like that happen where you pop off the bike. It'll start making it to where when you hit rhythm section jumps a little bit weird, it'll do this number right here. Damn, dude. That rhythm right there is God tier. I'm just going to say it right now. This entire rhythm right here is absolute Pastrana tier level. This is the kind of thing I was talking about when I was saying stuff like, this is the kind of rhythm section scaling. Let me play this back here right quickski. This is the kind of rhythm section scaling I was talking about that I really felt like we would have progressed into over all these years getting into 2022 Supercross. That little bit bigger scaling than the way it was back in 2017 type vibe shit, I thought we were going to progress a little bit more at that scaling after the 2017 series, but that really wasn't the case. It's as if the past 2 or 3 years they've went backwards, and kind of some of their tracks have been somewhat like the 17 level difficulty in scaling, but a lot of them haven't been. Well, what I'm trying to say here is this is the first track I've rode on since all that bullshit that I really feel like we've progressed in any kind of way scaling wise on the jump rhythms. Do you know what I mean? Just the overall vibe of this entire track really does feel like a next level of scaling that I just don't feel like we've seen yet. And that is such a cool feeling that it gives to this track. It feels like, okay, these jumps are not playing around. And I know some of you guys, you get a little confused when I talk about a track being skill gapped or difficult. What I mean by that is when you hit the biggest lines, it's this skill gapped or this difficult, you know. When you hit the whoops, wide ass open on a 450 shifting gears, it's this difficult. I'm not talking about like, you know, when you come out here as an amateur and you're hitting like a way smaller of a rhythm and you're going slower everywhere around the whole track and you're going slower around the whoops, that's a different kind of, you're at a different skill level, you're at a different speed level. So when I talk about difficulty on a track, I'm talking about like the kind of rhythms you would have to hit to stay up there at the top of a 450 RF Pro main event, the kind of speed levels you'd have to have going through the whoops to stay up there at the top, you know, top of the leaderboard on a 450 RF main event. That kind of speed and even being able to hit some of these bigger jumps, right? And the peakness of them and the distance of the finish lines in the main Supercross triples. That's what I mean when I say like overall difficulty. There is the rare occasion on some of these tracks where like certain ones of them, like the smaller, more standard 250 style rhythm as you would call it, like the normal triple end, may not be quite as difficult, or the slower way to hit a certain section may not be quite as difficult for some of you because you're not going fast enough on the track. I think that's where some of you guys get a little confused. You'll say stuff like, well, Spencer, what the fuck? Like, this certain track, this certain newer RF track is, you know, more difficult than a 2017 or whatever the case may be. I think a lot of you guys, you don't even remember how skill gap the 2017 ones were because the specific rhythms and the specific ways you can hit certain sections on those 2017s. There's a lot of you boys in this game, you ain't never even hit it. You ain't never even hit it one time. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean. Like, if you go back to some of them 2017 tracks and you ride on that, like, 250 pro level, 450 amateur style level, and you're not hitting the bigger quads and really blitzing the whoops like a madman, you're kind of getting a different interpretation of what I'm saying when I say something's, you know, to a pro level difficulty or to a pro level skill gap or whatever. So, but with a track like this, like, yeah, if you came around this first corner and you just tripled in on top of the tabletop instead of trying to jump all the way over, that's going to be exponentially easier to hit, but it doesn't make this track easy. Just because you can hit a smaller, easy rhythm, it doesn't mean the track is easy when you go big dog status. You know what I'm saying? You start jumping on top of that, over that first tabletop, and then on top of the second tabletop and off. You know, there's a lot of different things that create that sort of pro level skill gap, and you really have to be going fast enough to even feel that most of the time. Because even like the whoops, I mean, you got to have a pretty hardcore whoop section for it to actually cause it to be harder by going slower through it. There's very few whoop sections have actually achieved that with these RF tracks. I know Oakland 2017, that second whoop section before the finish line definitely gave you that feeling. These whoops right here are pretty legit too, but again, it's all in the speed that you're going through them. Like, if you're going half the speed that I'm going through them, the whoops are not really going to feel that difficult. But when you're going fucking balls to the wall 420 miles an hour through them, it ramps up that difficult level. But when they make certain tracks too easy or not really to that pro level, like a lot of their earlier tracks that they made this year, a lot of those tracks, it didn't even matter if you was wide open through the whoops or not. They just wouldn't cause you to crash. You know, the rhythm sections just wouldn't really allow you to hit anything bigger than that standard 250 triple in rhythm or whatever the case may be. Look at this right here, boys. Inside rut, daddies. And this little rhythm right here, after going, first of all, it's kind of hard to even double this and snag this inside rut without overshooting this. So they created the first part of this section really good. Creates a lot of like slowing down, break, corner, quickly skill gap. And then you got to get out of this, go down, and then try to get all the speed to triple right up out of this, which is really tough to hit. I mean, that is like, if I've ever seen a situation where you need maximum acceleration, maximum throttle, maximum seat bouncing, maximum T-sipping, this is it right here. To be able to hit this triple from going from the inside and hitting that inside rut, that is really tough to do. And like I say, I feel like they're getting that traction a little bit more towards the actual harder, impacty dirt feeling. They've really had these tracks to another level of skill gap these past like 2 rounds, this one and the past 2. They've really felt like they've been on a whole nother level to me. And this one, this rhythm right here in particular, is really on another level. I'm on a new level. It just is. And I feel like you would have to hit where you jump this all the way over this tabletop and then all the way to this tabletop and then bounce off. That's like what I would call the risk it for the biscuit in the 450 main event kind of rhythm, like you would on them 2017 tracks, those particular kind of quad rhythms that you know, if you're really, really good at, if you're basically James Stewart level speed on MX Simulator, then you can attempt to try to hit it every lap of a 450 main event. Not everybody in the 450 Pro class is going to be able to hit it. I would say probably the top 5 would be able to hit it pretty much every lap unless they have a little mistake before. But it's like just right, like I said on one of those previous reviews, right in that sweet spot zone of distance and peaked and difficulty to where it's like, feels like you would need to hit it in the 450 RF main event at the top 5 of it to stay up there. Or it feels like if you were in the back, you could try to hit it multiple laps and it would catch you up to the front really quick. You know, and if you were in the top 5 and you didn't hit it at all, it'd be really hard to stay in the top 5. Do you see what I'm saying? Like right in that range where it's like that separator rhythm in the 450 class. Obviously, a 250 is not going to be able to hit it. Obviously, a 450 amateur really shouldn't be able to hit it more than maybe just randomly one time. That really is more of a top 5 RF 450 Pro specific kind of rhythm. And that's the shit that drives me wild in a good way. I love shit like that. That's like a stewable, you know, separator rhythm section. I probably rode like 50 laps on this track, dudes, which is a massive difference to what I was doing on some of their earlier tracks this year. Even this triple rhythm right here, he's got these jumps peaked out just enough. I love how this rhythm turned out right here because you can really cut this corner down sharp and still get the triple in, but it's peaked. Everything's peaked out enough to where it still makes it skill gapped and you can still pop off the bike if you come up short. Whereas a lot of those earlier tracks this year, you could have come up short on a triple like this and you wouldn't even have popped off. And it was so much higher of a friction, loamy feeling. There's so much more throttle control that is required now, it feels like, on these tracks. So much more room for error. So much more room for potentially coming up short or over jumping something. Like I say, you start getting them tracks like some of their earlier ones this year that had way too much friction to them. Then it cuts off all the throttle control skill gap, cuts off all that shit. It limits your acceleration, so then you're just more wide open everywhere. This is more like there still is some throttle control required, but it's not like there's no friction on the track, right? It's more of a nice in-between style. Anyways, guys, wow, this is probably the closest track they've made this year to what I thought they was going to do in 2022 RF Supercross. Like, this is way more of the scaling and the feeling of the dirt and the whoop size and the finish line size and the berm size and the inside pre-made rut and the bigger rhythm scaling options that I thought we were going to have in 2022 RF Supercross. Unfortunately, we're damn near all the way through the season, all the way to St. Louis. And so hopefully they can carry this exact kind of momentum into next year. And if you could have a full series of this sort of skill gap level and this sort of scaling, it would create that real next level RF scaling that we've been waiting to see, you know? Like I say, the past 3 or 4 years after 2017, I just don't feel like it's matched up. I don't feel like it's matched up skill gap-wise. Of course, we're talking with Noah Road, obviously, because that's the only way you can compare back to the 2017s, because they weren't built around a road. They weren't made for it, and I'm pretty sure if you turn it on the 2017 tracks, you won't even get the same kind of a road that you get on the newer ones, because that was after you had to have that little thing in the custom track file to get the full road feeling to it with that update that they added. But anyways, overall, this is way more down the pro Supercross scaling. Just better track. Just more fun, more skill gapped, better. Feels more like a pro level 2022 big dog jump rhythm Supercross track on MX Simulator. You know what I'm saying? This gives me more of the actual feeling of what I think it would feel like. Of course, in a video game, like I say, you always got to be careful making shit one-to-one scaling. This is more of that, like, 1.5 to 1. You know what I'm saying? That's a little bit more like what I would call this rhythm right here, and it translates so much better to this game and the gameplay of this game, because, you know, we're not still in 2013 MX Simulator days. We're not still way back in them days where everything was rolled off and smoothed off and made super easy in the game. We have progressed over the years, and it's time that RF caught back up to that progression, and that's what it seems like they basically done here. Of course, this inside rut in the sand could have been a little bigger. They could add like a little bit more character to it, but other than that, everything else is fucking prime. Everything else is primo, dude. So either way, happy to see it, love to see it. Keep doing this. Do more of this. Finally, it seems like they're not scared to, you know, if we just happen to make a rhythm section that you can hit super big, if we just happen to make the track a little too difficult, that's okay. It's not the end of the world, you know? It's always better to have a little more skill gap versus a little less skill gap when it comes to a pro esports simulator replica track. It's always better for it to be a little too difficult than not difficult enough. And that's my motto, and I'm sticking to it. Because that's what this is made for, pro racing. Even though they have amateur racing on this, that's not what it's made for. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused, because the amateurs do race on the same tracks as the pros in this game, and I think that had a lot of influence on what the way RF designed these tracks difficulty-wise. And they need to stop listening to the amateurs and listen more to the pro level 450 skill level dudes in this game, aka the maximum speed you can go in this game, you know, on a 450. So that's the limit of the speed and skill gap of the game. You know, those are the kind of people they need to be listening to, like top 5 RF 450 dudes in this game, and that's it. I hate to say it, but that's the way it should be, because that's what these tracks are made for. And then everybody else really should just adapt to whatever that is, because it's always better, like I say, to make it more for the 450 pros, and then the 250s can just adapt to it, versus making it for the 250 pros and then you fuck up all the scaling and if you make it around a 250, then it don't really work as good for a 450. But I feel like if you make it for a 450, it can still work good for a 250. You just got to be good on a 250. Do you know what I'm saying? But either way, man, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. I'll see you boys on that next one. Later, dude.